have Chuck Norton and John Mahoney from Tool Designs go over some examples or some potential crosstown trail connections to Mosher Corner. As my wife would have put it, that means I can ride my bike to get ice cream. So that's the gist of the meeting tonight. So what I'm going to ask is that Chuck and John do the presentation, and then if anyone has questions that they would like to ask, to step up to the podium where John is standing, state their name, and ask the question or give their comment. And we'll just go until everyone's had their fair share, or their chance to say what they need to say. All right, so with that, John, are you starting? Or Chuck?
Yeah, can we, thank you. Okay. Welcome, John Mahoney from Tool Design. Let's see, I'll give you the background first. So the town applied to GPCOG, the Greater Portland Council of Governments, for funding for this trail connection from the end of the Crosstown Trail to Mosher Corner, like the context there. And the response to the application was that, well, we like the project, but we want it better defined. So it was sent back to the town for what's called enhanced scoping, which is what we're doing now. We're trying to better define various routes, various constraints, the pluses and minuses. And that's the study that's currently underway now. And once that study is completed, the next steps will be engineering, final design, permitting, and construction as funding becomes available. Let's see, so first I'm going to review the context of the area and the route, and look at the existing land uses. Then we're going to discuss the purpose and need statement, which just kind of helps us define the criteria for evaluating various pathway options. And then I'm going to summarize we looked at three alternatives. I'm going to summarize those and discuss the evaluation criteria. And then we did an evaluation matrix, excuse me. And once I get through that, then we'll open it up for questions and answers. And this presentation is pretty similar to what we presented a few months ago, just because I'll get into it in a little bit, but one of the options is through land owned by Central Maine Power, and we still haven't heard back from them, probably because they're busy with storms. So with that, so here we are, and off to the left of the page is the village center, and the Crosstown Trail currently runs from the village center to Hutcherson Drive, and right where this green arrow is, we want to make a connection to the north from the Crosstown Trail to Mosher Corner, which is the intersection of Main Street and Mosher Road, which is Route 237 and Route 25. So busy intersection, and we can get ice cream there when we get there. And there's other businesses, and there's also Cherry Hill Farm, and it ties in with another project that the town is working on. So that's the context. These are the three options we looked at. I'll go into a little bit more detail later. Option A is to the left, goes on entirely town-owned land / right-of-way. Option B crosses Central Maine Power. It's a more direct route. Option C crosses two different private properties, but there is significant wetlands in option C. Let's see, so here's a map from the town's GIS, which has been a great tool for our study, and shows this is a large parcel of town-owned land. There's other constraints because there's proposed industrial development too, but that's owned by the town. The yellow parcel is owned by CMP, so one of our options goes through there significantly. And so two of the options need to use private property, including CMP property, and one of the options doesn't. So, but just, there are very strict rules about property acquisition. So if the pathway does go through private property, we're going to follow all those rules and procedures and to acquire the necessary land rights. Let's see. So the purpose and the need is to extend the Crosstown Trail from Hutchinson Drive to Mosher's Corner. And we really want to expand access to the existing trail network and broaden the range of destinations that the trails connect to. And so, sorry, we want to increase destinations, connections to other trails. We also want to, one of the criteria is to encourage active transportation. So trips made by bicycle or pedestrians or walking instead of a car have the potential for better health outcomes, less pollution, less traffic on the roads. So just, that's one of the major criteria. And also just providing access to the natural environment and the beauty and tranquility of being in the woods or in the field. And so these are the evaluation criteria. Focus area 1 is user experience. So how direct is the route? Do I have to go up and back down, or can I get to where I'm going directly? Elevation change, same thing, like, gaining and losing elevation, especially, if you're biking by yourself, like under your own power, that's a big factor. And connections to businesses. So, how well is it to be able to connect to businesses at Mosher's Corner? And so access to the natural environment, that means, buffering from traffic, separation from the roadways, just quiet, access to other pathways. And then the third area is ease of implementation. So that really is minimizing impacts to wetlands because it's expensive. It's also, there's protections in wetlands for good reasons because they clean our water. So we want to minimize that. And impacts to private property, there's a lot of process and cost involved in using private property. And also relative cost. So it's going to be easier to implement a pathway connection that costs less than one that's costs more. So we'll get into that too. And so alternative A, let's see, we leave the Crosstown Trail maybe 500 feet or so short of Hutchinson Drive and head north over town land to Route 25. And then it would be a co-located multi-use trail running along the roadway. So there is a sewer project coming up that could potentially be constructed at the same time, and there might be some cost savings there. And the idea here is like not so much a sidewalk, but more of a multi-use pathway that would have appropriate width and buffering for cyclists and if kids were going to bike to get ice cream. And so that's option A. One of the major pluses is that the public already has all the rights. And minimal wetland impacts is another plus, but it's not great for getting out into the woods, at least for half of it. So it's not great. I think from a safety perspective, the separation from traffic could be addressed, but the noise and the experience is, if you're next to the road, you're next to the road. So that's option A. Option B, option B crosses through CMP land. It branches off a little bit closer to the end of Hutchinson Drive, which is right about here. I don't know how well people can see the pictures, and we have maps too. If anyone wants to grab one, they're on there if it's harder to see the screen. So option crosses up through CMP land, and it would also cross, there's a storage facility that fronts on Route 25. Would be crossing, this option would cross in their backyard, which, we think wouldn't have a substantive impact with that property. And then through Martins Point, where the town already has an easement through the back part of Martins Point for a pathway, and there have been discussions about continuing the pathway up and to connect. And this is that second project, the dashed black and white line. So that project is in design, and Chuck can speak to some details on that if there are questions. But the idea is our connection would connect to that, and then that connection would take people to Cherry Hill Farm. So option B, it's the most direct route. It has minimal wetland impacts, and the challenge here is a lot of it crosses CMP property, and there are high voltage lines. So we'd have to get permission from CMP or work out some sort of agreement, and we've started that discussion, but we haven't really we don't have a conclusion on that yet. So that's option B. Sorry. C, here we go. Option C ends really pretty close to where the pavement ends on Hutchison Drive now. It crosses through a private property between, there's a CMP substation here to the left, and it's going to be a battery storage facility, which is really cool. And Chuck could probably answer some questions on that one too. But the idea is it would cross between those two. There are wetlands here. There is an existing easement. Right now it's a Portland Water District easement, but the town's been in discussions with the owner, so we think the easement's pretty much all set for this. And then that would cross through Martins Point, going from south to north. There's an easement through most of the Martins Point property, and then really the only portion that remains is this shorter connection here, which the town's already in discussions with the property owner about that. So option C, it's a little easier from a property perspective. It has, there's only 2 impacted properties. It's got a good buffer from traffic. It'd be, like being in the wetlands would have an advantage in terms of being able to see the wetlands, wildlife and critters, and so there could be an educational component, but there would be significant wetlands impacts, so and significant costs. So that's option C. And this is our alternatives matrix, and sort of like what I've summarized before, we rated each of the 3 options, and we had a pretty strong consensus. And please jump in, anyone on the commission, but we sort of went through this before, and I know there's new members of the commission, but there was sort of a general consensus among the commission as well as the city and the design team that option 2 is the preferred option. And I'm not even see. And I guess option 2, it wasn't as good for access to business, and it had some wetlands impacts, a little more than option A, but not nearly as much as option C. So the challenge with this option is we're still trying to work through it with CMP and getting an agreement with them, or acquiring rights. So that's, let's see, alternative, second place was option A, although there's less consensus on that. The option A and option C are quite a bit closer. Option A had the advantage of not less wetlands impacts and less property impacts. And option C sort of has the advantage of being away from the road and access to nature. And that's that's a pretty rough summary. I'm happy to go into more details, and if you have anything you want to throw in there, Chuck?
Excuse me. Good evening, everybody. I'm Chuck Norton. I'm the town engineer for the town of Gorham. Could we back up to the slide that has the Route 25 237 sidewalk? Yep, here we go. Right here's fine.
Okay.
So the white and black dash line there at the top, I'll talk about that a little bit. We're currently in the design process with one of our in-house engineers, Barton and Judas, to give us a design for a shared use path on the north side of 25 through there. And that connection includes a pedestrian phase on that light that will move people from currently the Martins Point entrance across 25 over to the Cherry Hill side of 25 and down along, terminating there right at, I think is that Cherry Hill Road, Damon?
Let's see, I think.
It's the road leading up to Cherry Hill,
Yeah.
but which really brings pedestrians across 25, which is a busy intersection there, and down towards some of the business and the trail network up in that location. So that's it's a good termination point for this planning study because we do start at the Crosstown Trail across the rail bed there to the south and then moving up north, and it gets us into a project that's already in process. So it's a good connection for us to make in this project. So just want to expand on that a little bit before we move into the public comment portion of this. So.
Any questions on the Conservation Commission side? I know, Molly, you weren't here for...
Honestly, it seems pretty clear, so no, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Public questions or comments? Just step up to the microphone.
Come on up to the mic.
Yeah, please come up.
We're actually recording this meeting today, and it is being broadcast on the news. So if you could come up, state your name, your address.
I'll make sure.
Yep, that's fine. And I'm taking.
My name is Peter King, 7 Railroad Avenue. And I have a number of questions, but the first one that I'm most interested in initially is I'm really not sure of the history of the Crosstown Trail. I think it just opened to public use 2 or 3 years ago, and maybe I'm misunderstanding that, but just the history of that trail, and was there any vision for, at the time when the existing trail was put together, was there any vision for it to go further than just the industrial park that's there now?
I've been in this position for about a year now, so I don't think I can accurately talk to that, but I'll open it
It's
up.
been a couple years since it opened up. It was, I think, Rec and Public Works combined to get that trail cleared and open. It wasn't a Conservation Commission project. As far as going past Hutcherson, right now what we have, what's being proposed is the only active expansion of the trail. That being said, Damon, we got someone, the conservation or someone from Westbrook reached out to us. I can't remember their title.
Yeah, so I'm Damon Yakovlev, the assistant town planner, and yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. That
Yeah,
there's,
sure, go ahead.
the idea is that eventually people will be able to get from Gorham Village all the way to downtown Westbrook on a trail connection of some kind for bike pedestrian access. And so there's been some discussion with Portland Trails and coordination with City of Westbrook to try to establish a connection from the border with Gorham through Westbrook, that portion of Westbrook over to the Riverwalk Parkway. That's the idea, that there be a continuous connection, safe bike ped, good for people of all ages, kids to use through that whole corridor. So that's eventually the vision. So this is part of that and expanding that that network.
So just one other question. Did you part of your consideration in the development of the trail, I know Hutchinson goes right down to 25, of bringing the trail, well, sort of heads at Hutchinson, of making that path parallel to Hutchinson and bringing it right out to 25 there. I'm assuming that's all city land because of the
industrial-
development there, which would, less hassles. And then instead of the path going towards Westbrook, it would sort of come back west, I guess, on paralleling 25. I don't know if they looked at that as a possibility. Certainly a lot less hassles in terms of land. And my final question, then I'll go find my seat, is in the rendering, I saw the trail had a lot, it looked like it was paved. And I'm assuming that was just for the rendering, that is there going to be some kind of crushed stone or packed dirt of some sort?
Yeah, so we're not entirely sure exactly what the trail would look like. We kind of envision a continuation of what the current Crosstown Trail is, which is that packed, stone.
Okay, thank you. And then if there's any feedback on that
Yep.
going down Hutchinson, I don't know if you've probably looked at it, but
Yeah, so I'll definitely let Damon speak to this too, but I've seen some emails come through with that connection that Damon was talking about continuing on to Westbrook, and it did have, I think they noted it as going down Hutchinson, and not having a map pulled up. Does Hutchinson have sidewalk?
I can pull up Google Earth.
It doesn't at this point, but the idea is that
yeah.
that could be added.
Right.
There could be a side trail.
I believe
basically.
there is adequate right-of-way down that road that would allow for sidewalk.
Yeah, and then there'd be, crossing of 25, that all have to be part of the,
Correct.
the plan, and a few moving pieces, basically, but it's something that's kind of in the works and connects, it's kind of tangential to this particular project, but it would benefit from having more places to get to and from, basically, by adding this connection over to Mosher Corner.
And this project, this planning study really recognizes the importance of Mosher's Corner and being able to get from the Crosstown Trail north as well.
And just, I will say, I think that the continuing down Hutchinson that could be potentially part of the route to Portland, and that is not, I think it's not an either or, but maybe a both and, I think the connection we're working on is also, also important, and I don't think it's it would, I have Google Earth up, if, can we, I thought I did, okay, hold on, let's see.
Yeah, if it helps, I'm looking at the email now that we got, Damon, and the trail would go down Hutchinson, and then it would
That's
go
fine. All right.
from the end of Hutchinson into the woods a little bit and cross 25, farther down, a little closer to, I think it's Conant Ave in Westbrook,
Conant Street.
and would go in behind Ernie's Bike Shop.
Is this,
Yeah, so if you were to just trace a straight line down Hutchinson, and instead of
Yep.
turning left up towards 25, you just keep going straight down. I do know that there's is that a pump station at the very end of Hutchinson? I believe, been down that area. So there's some challenges going that way, and there's some, but, teaming up with Westbrook would be a huge help for that as well.
so is it kind of through here,
Yep, that's
this
correct.
area?
Yep, and then it would, right to where you pretty much drew the line they drew. And then it would go northeast, I guess, up Conant Ave, and then it could connect behind a business there. But my map
Oop.
stops before this one does. But
I gotta go this way, hold on.
wherever Ernie's Bike Shop is in there, I think there's a possible tie into a trail there.
So this one, what is it called? This road here?
Yep, and then,
Right.
Okay.
yeah, and there's
That would be-
Ernie's Cycle Shop, and you can see there's already some trail there. So you would just, I think, go back from
Oh, I
there to
see
the
Ernie's,
Riverwalk
okay,
Trail.
all right, okay.
This is just a sketch. There aren't like these hard concrete plans drawn up for this right now. But, to Chuck's point, these aren't either or
Right.
propositions. There's benefits to doing both.
Yep.
I mean, the Mosher Corner connection is a huge win for Gorham. The Westbrook connection is a win for the region. At least that's how I trying to see it.
What? Yep. Oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, Drew Strange, 33 Long Meadow Drive.
Drew, you're supposed to be up here, actually.
I wasn't sure, so. But I'm new to the community. I'm still trying to figure out a little bit. So has the city had previous experience working with CMP in these kind of acquisitions of right-of-way through there? Or do we have neighboring communities that have maybe already had these agreements with CMP to acquire that?
Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I think,
There's a microphone too, if you want to use the mic. John, if you want to let him stay up there. There's a
Oh, okay.
handheld mic.
Oh, okay.
Just turn it on.
Yeah.
hello?
So I know Portland Trails has had good luck working with CMP. It's utilities are tricky. It's like all about getting the right contact person. And believe it or not, we've made a lot of calls, and we still haven't got there yet. But I'm hopeful. I mean, they definitely have. I don't know. I think if you have any connections with CMP, that would be.
My connections are with Idaho Power, so unfortunately.
Well, I mean, maybe. So yeah, I think we're still hopeful.
So it's happened in the past.
Yeah.
It could happen in the future.
Yeah.
And that's the best plan.
Yeah, that's the best option in terms of being off-road, but not impacting a lot of wetlands.
Understood.
So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So just to add to that, Tom Mazza, I'm also the president of the Snowmobile Club in this region, and so we work with CMP pretty consistently. There are some established trails on their land, and they are good neighbors. It's just a matter of a process and getting approval, but there is, some trails in the area where CMP has given us the right to cross their property.
Hi, Rob Lavoie, 81 Wagner Farm Road. I'm so glad to see this moving forward. As the past chair of the Conservation Commission and another past chair in the audience tonight who's worked on this, or historically has had this on his radar for a very, 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 very long time. So yeah, I'm happy to see this. So first, to answer the question regarding CMP, another great example would be the Yarmouth West Side Trail, which is almost entirely on the CMP corridor. It would be great to reach out to that organization to see who their contact is with dealing with CMP. So take that. If you need help, Bill, I can connect you with the right person. Dan.
And,
Ostra.
okay.
Yep. And then second, a comment about the historical reference of the Crosstown Trail. When I was on the Conservation Commission, there was a section of trail that was still privately owned, that was closer to Libby Ave. The town did eventually acquire that section of trail, and then it fell into this kind of a gray area where the town was basically, there was tennis courts in town that were funded with federal dollars, and those tennis courts were supposed to remain in perpetuity. The only way to lift that restriction on where they were located is to do equal in value land swap. So the town's thought was, hey, we now acquire this portion of the Crosstown Trail, and maybe we can move our tennis courts now, and then this land will now be in perpetuity, never to be touched. But it wasn't an equal value thing, and there was a lot of other things involved in that process, so that deal never went through. So then, in a few years ago, we finally gave up on that idea, or the town staff did, and made the necessary improvements to improve the trail surface. So that's kind of the history of it and why it didn't go anywhere for a very long time. It wasn't improved or worked on because if we improved it, it doesn't count as a land swap. So we were told to pump the brakes, don't touch it. But now, as you see it now, it's in much better shape. So that's the historical reference. Now, a question I have for all of you is, between B and C, now I've been back in here, I've been pretty much on all 3 routes. I've explored over the years in all 4 seasons. I know there's wetlands back there, but where you see the B and C on the map, kind of right in between it, and you kind of see an old ATV trail behind the power station where there's almost a triangle.
Should we put
Yeah,
the
yeah,
map
please.
back? I think he has to do it. Let's see. I'll do. Slideshow.
There we go.
Maybe it's already.
And I realize this is not the exact route, more of a rendering.
Sorry. Oh, there we go. From the beginning. There we go.
All right, so directly, can I grab your mouse?
Yeah, definitely.
Directly, like right here seems to be the height of land in that area. Oh, you can't see it on the...
We know what you mean.
Well, if you draw a straight line between B and C, connecting the letters,
There we go.
right? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that seems to be the height of land back there, and I'm just curious why B wouldn't kind of veer off to the right rather than using the cleared corridor. It seems to be like, I know that drops off and it can get low and wet.
It's, to be
It's-
honest, we have a few different
Okay,
alignments
so
for
it's-
B, and we really want to talk to CMP, because we
Okay.
don't know how they want us to cross the transmission lines.
Got it.
Um,
Diagonally.
You're spot on with the height of land. I mean, when we get into design,
Okay.
that'll definitely be worked into it, and like, it's kind of, I mean, this is something to think about too, from a priorities perspective. Like, it's nice to go up there, you get kind of a view, you experience a different ecology, but it's a little bit more pedaling to get up there and back down.
True.
So like, those are trade-offs. My guess is if there's a good chance CMP may want to minimize the crossing of the transmission line. Like, I don't know, because we haven't talked to them, but I could see them wanting us to stay away and then cross perpendicular, so to minimize the.
Right.
And, you know, I think with electrification, they may have like grid improvements proposed, so that may be part of them, so.
All right.
But yeah, I think it's like 2 little hills. It's kind of a neat area, and then there's like a little saddle between them, and you could potentially run right through them. But like C, that's like the only spot that C doesn't have wetlands. So there's
Right.
like wetlands here, and then you'd go up across the height of land, and then there's a good bit of wetlands through this area too. It's like you can see the wetlands follow the furrows of the old farm field,
Yeah.
the way they're mapped.
And I believe Dale has a satellite photo of the old farm fields without trees.
We could look at that.
I think in our meeting, when we talked about that as an option as well, 2 of the things that we considered is that if you were to pass where that ATV snowmobile trail is, you'd be walking along the corridor, so you'd be in amongst the power lines kind of throughout your walk, so they'd be overhead, so you'd be walking in parallel with them, as opposed to where B is now, you'd be walking across it. So the impact to you as a person traveling that route would be a little more scenic because you're crossing it versus walking in parallel.
Makes sense. Lastly, thank you all for volunteering your time, being on this commission, and hopefully we get to see this project cross the finish line.
Thank you, Rob.
Hi, Mary Lee Warholic. I probably should know the answers to this because my husband's on the commission. But I was, one thing that you guys were talking about, you and Rob, about maybe having to pedal a little more on one of the routes. You have to, the one thing that I noticed, because we take that route a lot, and yay, Beals, is a lot of parents bring their small children for walks and for with strollers. So just keep that in mind for the ruggedness of the trail and the, the steepness of it. But But I was also wondering, is this, it doesn't sound like it's very solid at this point, right? I mean, are you looking for more input from the public, or?
Yeah, always, yeah. I can speak to that, excuse me a little bit. So this is a planning study. Next from here, after public input, there certainly would be some funding considerations. It's a solid plan. We know it's something that the town wants. So, we look for creative ways to fund projects like this all the time. So it's really a function of if and when we get the funding and what that funding is. And then to go back to speak to the design aspect, there's certainly standard design considerations when you're talking about a trail system. There's percent of slopes that you can't exceed, and you have to have level off areas and that's really the point of going through these planning studies and then doing a design is you get a nice functional usable trail system where you don't have long steep inclines or declines for pedestrians. But yes, the next steps, the way we see them, Tool Design will submit their final report. That goes back to GPCOG in the town. Then we'll take that from there, and whatever funding mechanisms we can go after through GPCOG, MPI PACs, federal funding, trail systems. There's money out there. It's just a function of what we can get, and when we do, that's the plan, is to move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking while you guys were talking that I've been trying to throw it out there on social media, but it gets buried. So I was just thinking maybe best to tap into the people who actually use it, maybe put like QR codes, like laminated QR codes for surveys or something.
Yeah, and keep in mind, if this project does move forward, or when it does move forward, there will be site plan review, there'll be public hearings at both, probably, Damon, correct me if I'm wrong, but the town council and planning board levels for a project like this.
If there's public right-of-way to be used, I think the council might be involved at that point.
So there'll be other levels of public hearings that'll be put out there for people to come and comment. Yep.
Thank you.
So on the strollers.
Oh, no.
Is the verdict on is the current crosstown trail, like the way it's set up now, is that where?
Yeah, it seems to be. I mean, when we have been on there and there have been strollers, it's flat enough, and, aside from the bits of mud here and there.
But it's not, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. The rail bed's pretty flat. It's a rail.
Yeah.
And then I should have said it at the end, but we are looking for input. So B is the preferred option. Potentially, if you have a preference for A over C, that might be something.
B seems to be the best. I mean, probably the hardest to do, but in my opinion, A, you're out there, like you were saying before, you want to be in the woods, right? You don't want to be going along the road. So, but that's my personal preference. Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Mahoney. I live on Gateway Commons Drive. Two questions. I looked, when you showed that graph of, well, it was a graph, 3 charts of the cost analysis. I was just curious, A was not the cheapest cost, even though it's all town land and there's no wetlands. So I was wondering how it worked out that wasn't the lowest cost option of the 3.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. So certainly going across all public right-of-way, there's a reduced cost in that effect. Half of that trail did exist on Route 25, and when you do a trail co-located with a road, you get into considerations like, is that a paved trail now? Is it, what kind of drainage implications do you have? We know in discussions with the Public Works Director and other town staff that that's a relatively steep and rocky bit of Route 25 on the right-hand side there. So we wanted to try to factor that into that cost consideration as well, knowing that doing the trail out in the woods was likely going to be a cheaper option than trying to do something immediately roadway adjacent, because you do have a lot more safety considerations when you're adjacent to traffic.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
The second question is unrelated to the Crosstown Trail, but something that was brought up with the future connection to Westbrook. It got me excited because if the Mountain Division Trail gets extended from 202 east into Westbrook, is there somehow in your crystal ball an idea that somewhere down the road, this trail, once you get into Westbrook, will connect with the Mountain Division Trail? That's probably beyond anybody's expertise here, but it would be really nice to have access to that trail heading west. But I'd like to see it soon because I'm 70 and I bike regularly, but you know, I hope to do it in another 20 years, but who knows? But thank you very much.
There is a Sebago to the Sea initiative.
Right.
And I think that like the Crosstown Trail is on it, and I think that the extension to Westbrook is on it, so that would eventually connect to the Mountain Division.
Okay,
or
cool.
another route, I think. But there is,
Knock,
yeah.
knock on wood, I'll be around to see it.
I hope that I get to see it.
Yeah.
And cool last name, by the way.
Yes. Yeah, my dad was John Mahoney, so. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey folks, my name is Mike Greco. I live at 8 Deerfield Drive. We wanted public opinion, do it. This is great. B and C are great options. I don't like A so much when you're on the road. But I think both of these are great. I used to live right off of Libby Ave, and I was on this trail every day. I mean, it's a great trail to use. I guess my only comments after listening to this whole thing were on the termination of kind of actually either side of the trail. I'll start with this proposal first. You know, what is there any consideration for more sidewalks on the south side of the road, connecting some of those shops? Right, you have Beals and then that bakery, the Dunkin' Donuts Plaza, even the gas station. So you don't have to cross 22 to.
You're talking about on 25?
25, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Just so that you can kind of walk through those couple areas.
There is some sidewalk, and I put them in quotes because I've been out there, and I wouldn't necessarily call them sidewalks. It's more like just kind of paved around telephone poles. I don't think we have any current plans in the pipeline for doing sidewalks on that side. So, I mean, unless developers kind of redo some of that area, I think it may be difficult. And with all of those businesses, encouraging a lot of walking in front of those businesses might be difficult as well. But I know there exists some sidewalk out there, though it's not perfect. Mm-hmm. But this would at least allow people to get to a controlled intersection up to Mosier's and cross, as opposed to trying to cross. And I'm speaking about the 25237 connection that we're already in the design process of, instead of people trying to cross mid-block, you know, to walk over to the Beals ice cream from Cherry Hill or anything like that. So that's really, you know, what we're looking to achieve. Yeah.
Okay. And that's kind of my only comment. Actually, on the other side of the trail when it terminates over by the oil there in the cemetery, there's not really a sidewalk there that connects that end of the trail into the rest of there's like a whole, I don't know, that entire cemetery is width of you know, just you're walking on the shoulder or biking on the shoulder there. I'm bad with the street names around here. I've only been here for a few years, so.
Like from the end of the trail to like White Birch Lane.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yes, thank you.
On the north side of the road, right?
Correct.
There's also another easement. Damon, again, I look to you, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's been an easement provided from White Birch Lane off-road that's up to where the New Portland Road Crosstown Trail crosses.
Yes.
Yeah, there is an easement there, so the town does have plans to try to get that connection made. So
cool. So crossing the street there. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, there's an easement that would kind of go behind and come out just past the oil business.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part of that is the grade change between the trail and the road. It's probably about 5 feet, and there's a significant drainage culvert there. So, or ditch, there is no culvert. So getting that crossing to be something safe would be a more substantial project.
I can share that I'm going to be working with the engineering college up in Orono to try to get them to provide a student group to do a capstone project for that project. There's no guarantee that they'll choose it as a project to work on, but that's I am working with them to.
Cool. Yeah, that would be cool, because then you can connect kind of that center of town with sidewalks or trails all the way back through toward this half of this other side of the trail.
Right.
Awesome. That was it. I like this. I would love to see it happen.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I can just add too that eventually the plan is to have sidewalks on Main Street through the full length of it. It's within the zone of town that does require pedestrian connections. That's actually something the council recently approved, and the planning board worked on that as well. So, but that's very long term as development occurs, and developers would then contribute toward that, basically.
Hi, Tom Gilmore, 81 Falcon Crest Drive. I've just got 2 comments. I have not been out on the property, but based on the conversation here and what I see here, I'd vote for option C all the way because of looks like you're more in the trees and it's a little more natural environment and conducive to feeling like you're on a trail. Second of all, you kind of referenced funding. I was recently a project manager for a land trust and applied for funding through Land for Maine's Future. I don't know if you guys have worked with them before, but they're just looking to give away money for trails. They're very supportive of towns working on trail systems, so Land for Maine's Future is a good option. I worked with Land and Water Conservation Fund at the federal project, but with them, the municipality needs to own the property, so probably not going to work here, but go with LMF. And this is not even counting what's been in the newspapers recently about the legislature looking for more money for funding. So I think the timing is great to get state funding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
I can make a comment quickly about Route C. There's that new battery warehouse going in there. And if you've been out there, that lot is pretty clear. And there is a very thin tree line between the power station and where the battery place is going to be. So you're going to have an exposure there, a good half of the trail.
Yeah, that current, it's 60 Hutcherson Drive out there. It's where the Pathway C runs along. They're currently preloading that site, so there's a whole bunch of gravel sitting on that site. My understanding is that entire battery storage facility is fenced in, and there are it may be privacy fencing throughout that project as well. So yes, there would be, certainly some exposure there, but I think it wouldn't be necessarily too bad going through that site.
I would just comment, because I was on the planning board when we approved the battery site. It's big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not a small
Well, yeah.
site, so that's something to keep in mind with number C, or letter C, if we go with it.
I probably don't need to speak because I was going to speak the same thing about the battery site on 60 Hutchinson. But my name's George Verselli, 2 Brookfield Court. I was initially, when I was on the Planning Commission, in favor of C, but I did not realize at that time that that's where the battery site was going to be. And since then, I've had a number of people asking me about the battery site and having safety concerns over what happens there because they say there's been fires at different battery plants across the United States. But I don't know if that's factual or not. It's just something to keep in mind. And the other thing, just a comment, you gotta have a microphone, but when you answer a question, hold it up higher. Thank you.
Good to see you, George.
Hi, I'm Jamie Willey. I'm actually from Portland. I live on Caleb Street. And if you don't mind, so this isn't a regular Conservation Commission meeting, it's just about a public hearing. And if you don't mind me just bring up a habitat issue about the Stroudwater River. And I think, and I actually know, the drainage from this trail area goes down to the Stroudwater and out to Fall River. And just as an FYI, if you look over to Mill Brook in Westbrook, there's going to be a great alewife run here in about 2 months. And it's a really good thing that that waterway's opened up. And the reason why I'm here tonight is to talk about Gorham's opportunity. And just, I think there's just a lot of people looking for increasing habitat. And the Stroudwater River Dam actually came up on its own in a Portland committee meeting about its viability and continued path forward. And so the trail networks and the people getting out doing things outside in Gorham could be enhanced with if the Stroudwater Dam went away someday. And I'm not saying that that's on the table right now, because things come up and then they go away. And it's just really words of encouragement, hopefully, to the city of Portland that they continue to work on that. Because if you look at that alewife run in Mill Brook, some of this can happen in Westbrook too. Now, I'm not a fisherman. I don't. But I did look at the cost of maintaining it a little bit, and I do live in the district in Portland. And so I looked at it and thought, it's probably time for it to really be considered. And so the beneficiaries are upstream, and Gorham's part of that. And I guess I'm here today as much as anything. That alewife run is in about 6 weeks, 8 weeks, early June. And it's just something to keep in mind. And I'm just hoping nobody's going to fall in this sword on this thing, okay? But the dam's been there 150 years, and it actually peeked out into the open. The possibility of maybe having fish run and habitat enhancement. So I'm just bringing it up. And again, I'm sorry to extend your meeting, but I thought it'd be maybe a timely message to pass along.
Thank you. Is Ruth Kelly here by any chance? I'm just going to take a second. She wrote into the Conservation Commission about this meeting, and I said I would read her email if she did not attend. I don't see her, so. Hi, I am writing about the Crosstown Trail Extension meeting tonight. I love the idea of extending the Crosstown Trail to Main Street and hopefully beyond. My family walks down that trail all the time, and there is marshland and wildlife in the areas of the proposed extensions. To minimize disruption to undeveloped land, it would be great if the extension could be placed alongside existing snowmobile and other paths wherever possible. Thank you, Ruth Kelly. Just share that concern, which I think a lot of us share. Minimal disruption. Any other comments?
Hi, my name's Abby King. I live on Wintergreen Drive. We bought Mike's house last year. Hi, Mike. But we walk, bike, ski, stroller, do everything on this trail almost every day. So just wanted to thank the Conservation Commission and the staff and the consultants for all that you're doing to extend it and maintain it and make it better. I would prefer option C personally, but I trust the group. And then I just wanted to make a plea for not plowing the section of Hutcherson Drive between the gate and this new extension. I don't know how that's going to work out timing-wise, but this winter, for example, the trail ended at the gate, and then in order to get to the snowmobile trail that's about where Route C is currently, you have to be on Hutcherson Drive, and so there was just a plea to leave a section for the snowmobiles and the skiers to be able to get there, and just not plow that section. And also please stop driving construction vehicles all the way down the trail too, but I've mentioned that before, so just wanted to say thank you. And we also need a chainsaw out there right now, as you probably know, so.
Yeah, I walked it last night, more than new construction in the industrial park. I didn't go past there, so where are the blowdowns? The other side of Libby or the same side?
Both, yeah. So, well, where Wintergreen, so Wintergreen is just east of Libby. So where we enter the trail, if you're looking between Wintergreen and Libby, there's blowdowns, and then also in the other direction. They don't seem to be too bad once you get past the clearing for the new industrial site. But we went to go pick up tires in anticipation of cleanup day and couldn't get very far because there were too many blowdowns. So, and we don't have a chainsaw, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
but thank you so much.
want to go chainsaw this weekend, Ernie? Thank you, Abby.
Ken Curtis, 118 South Street. We've wintered many years down on the coast of Alabama between Orange Beach and Gulf Shores, and there's miles and miles of trails. They connect, it seems like it goes on forever. And one other comment too is that by the more we connect to each of the, Westbrook and tie into the Wyndham line, it's a plus for everybody. And one other thing for some entrepreneur is to have bicycles to rent. We were down there in the winter, and that's what we would do. And we had almost weekly, we'd go for a ride. So that's something else. And thank you people for doing what you're doing. It's appreciated.
Thank you. I'll start a bike shop next week. Any other comments or questions? Chuck, John, anything else you guys want to say in conclusion?
No, I really appreciate the turnout. We were a little concerned with how many people would come out today, but I'm really surprised and happy that we got the turnout that we did. So thank you all very much for taking your time out and getting out here. And thanks for the Conservation Commission for hosting us. We approached them 3 months ago, 3 months ago. Yeah, and they graciously heard us, gave us some of their input, and made some alterations, and then allowed us to hijack one of their meetings for a public hearing, and it goes a long way for us. So thank you very much. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight.
Thank you, everyone. John, Chuck, thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you.
And just one question. So next steps, is there anything people should look to for?
Yeah, I spoke a little bit earlier, but yeah, for anybody, next steps would be Tool Design will finish up their report. That'll be submitted to the town as well as GPCOG. And then really, I believe after that, the town will be looking to fund projects moving forward. So.
Great. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, confirmation, commission folks, we'll finish up our meeting. This is the non-public part, or this part doesn't need to be videotaped.